Hey guys, it's Mathil here once again, and the latest Path of Exile expansion and league was announced today, and it is called Legion. After many speculations and guesses at what it was, well, in the end, it is Legion, and oh boy, is it something we want. It looks basically, if you haven't watched a trailer, by the way, go ahead, stop this, go watch a trailer instead. But we're just gonna watch it while I talk. Looks basically like a secondary breach, so that's what it is, right? That's exactly what it is. We got basically what we really wanted, which is the long-awaited 2.0 of Breach, and I think that looks just amazing because that's pretty much what I've always wanted out of a league: kill more shit. It is the answer to the exact situation that we were put into when Synthesis was out, and we're just like, what the fuck is that? Whereas this one, it's exactly what we want. We want to kill some shit and then collect some loot. And this looks like it's going to be pretty damn similar to Breach in that it is a lot of stuff to kill, but it is a bit more under your control because you will be popping off as many monsters as you want to do and then go ahead and, well, actually face them, right? So you pop your little stone here, you get a bunch of enemies spawned, you then trigger whichever ones you want to attack, and that means you can really control your early game, your late game, as much as you want, and then you actually fight them once the timer is up, and hopefully, you know, good things happen, hopefully good loot and some fun encounters. So overall, it looks like a Breach, just more controlled, possibly more dangerous, who the hell really knows, but that's basically all I, or a lot of us, have ever wanted. Just, you know, more monsters to kill, more loot to collect. And on top of that, there's a big melee rework, which, fuck, I mean, I don't ever like to set expectations, never like to predict things or, you know, really expect anything. I'm just like, give me some cool stuff and it's fine. This, however, looks pretty big. It is going to quite likely change the fluidity, just the smoothness of how Path of Exile is played, especially on the melee scene, especially from the early game. With everything they're saying, it should just be incredible. Little dashes and movement skills additions, just quality of life of actually using your movement skills, much more instant, animation cancelling, and just something that, you know, Multi-Strike tries to fix but doesn't really do that well, and then dodging attacks and stuff from the enemies as well. Overall, it's going to be a huge rework for melee, and it is, well, this entire past league was all about spells, and it was a big spell league, right? I've already forgotten about spells just watching this. All I can think about is attacks and melee, and that's amazing, because it was going to be pretty hard to outdo the old spell patch and all the way that we were thinking about spells, and all of a sudden I think it's going to be pretty easy to forget about spells, and almost kind of a shame because you might not really want to play anything spell based in this next patch based off of all of the cool new shit coming with melee and attacks. There is then of course a nice long and as usual very good and detailed Ziggy D video you can check out, 14 minutes worth of behind the scenes action of the latest patch, and do recommend watching it. As always, it's a pretty good one, and it does go over a bit of the stuff, shows you an insight to a few of the other skills, ascendancies, and what's to come with the melee rework. So yeah, definitely check that out, and there's a lot to see there. But I don't want to just, you know, watch it over the top of them. I'll let you guys see that by yourself. So we'll go over the actual entire main announcement with you guys. Before I jump into that, I guess I'll give you the simplest, too long didn't watch reaction of the entire thing. I think it looks pretty damn good. I'm excited for it. The entire melee rework, I'm just, that will keep me busy from start to finish, I'm pretty sure. Build after build after build. It should feel smooth and actually pretty enjoyable making all of these melee builds, and this sort of mechanic just, it very much looks like something I want to engage with, and something a lot simpler than a Synthesis, which, let's be honest, a lot of the times with some of these leagues, when you watch the trailer, you're just like, yep, what's going on? Oh yeah, maybe. I'll wait till someone else deciphers it, or until I try it out. This doesn't really look like that. It's just, there it is, interact with it, fun, cool. And that's pretty much been the highlight of Flashback League for me. Just lots of extra stuff to kill, you know, Beyond and a few other different old league stuff. That's what makes the game fun right now, I feel. Just more stuff to kill and faster, funner shit. And then ultimately a few bosses and all that, which I'm sure we'll get with Legion that look pretty good and fun. But to just jump into the actual announcement itself, Path of Exile Legion. So basically there's a few armies or legions of, I don't know, dudes that have fought each other in the past, and the mightiest military leaders of Ray class history have been fighting eternal war. And Path of Exile Legion free their legions from endless battle, defeat them in combat to earn their valuable rewards. And then it just says there's a bunch of you know, new stuff and cool stuff coming. So what's happening here is, as you explore Ray class in Legion League, you discover monoliths, these big things. Tag these to reveal ancient conflict between multiple legions frozen in time. Untether monsters by dealing damage to them, but be prepared to fight those monsters when the effect of the monolith wears off. As certain monsters are powerful and drop valuable items, Legion grants you full control over risk and reward. So we've got 3 screenshots there. Basically that's what it looks like. You got a few new melee skills, or a few skills that we haven't really seen before. Dudes spinning around and just fucking shit up. And that's the stuff currently frozen. You're triggering it, and then eventually you fight it afterwards. But the art on that is really cool. Overall, just a lot of stuff to kill by the looks of it, and fight and engage with. So overall, that should be a lot of fun. You know, we'll say tentatively, but it looks very sweet to begin with. You then have diving into this stuff here. So Timeless, Domain of Timeless Conflict. Enemies from each of the 5 legions drop splinters, very Breach-like, which combine together to form an emblem of that legion. Place 2 or more emblems from different legions in a map device to gain access to the Domain of Timeless Conflict, where the eternal battle between those legions rages. Unlock the upgraded map device in order to fight in the ultimate conflict between all 5 legions. So apparently 5 legions, got to pop at least 2 of these sorts of stones in, and that means that you'll have those 2 armies going against each other. And obviously that will tailor the loot that you get from them at the end. Otherwise, yeah, I suppose if you chuck all 5 in at once, then, well, there's probably going to be a pretty big fight and a pretty big boss battle for you to partake in, with probably the sweetest of rewards. So that's one of the bosses there, looks kind of sweet. That's some more boss action probably. And then that's what the map device looks like. And apparently that's what all our map devices are now. They have 5 slots, and something like the Pantheon upgrading little Divine Flask thing will just be a single slot thing that you chuck in here. Otherwise, we just have an extra slot for all of our map fragmenting and, well, yeah, boosting. So that's a little bit nice, but yeah, overall it's designed so that your 5 splintery things, once you get 50 splinters, get 2 of these things in, chuck them in, combine your conflicts, and then tailor them to your own sort of needs. You then have the actual item rewards. Some Legion monster, well, kind of item rewards, we'll get into that right now though. Some Legion monsters display symbols indicating the specific items they drop. So there you go, dude's dropping a chaos. Skilled players will focus on freeing the monsters that maximize the type of rewards they are seeking. Certain monsters can drop incubation items which modify a piece of equipment to guarantee a certain reward after you killed a specific number of monsters. So what this means is you can incubate one of your items with one of these things. So let's say you incubate your Namahus with something, and all of a sudden that means you have to kill, in this case, 2,000 monsters of level 68 or above. Once that's completed, something will drop, and it's a pretty simple system that rewards just killing more stuff, which is always good, and then giving you a direct item out of it. And in this case, we currently have valuable currency item. You have a div card, probably mostly going to be crap, but who knows, and Harbinger item. So that's just a few of the examples, and it's actually pretty cool that this is probably one of the first times you can actually really track your kills in these settings. Previously you could do that with Rampage, but it goes up to 1,000 enemies, and it's, you know, all in a chain, so it kind of forces you to rush or something. This is actually going to be a pretty cool system, I think, to count the amount of, let's say, enemies in a map, compare it between different maps. You can get exact, easy access to just how many things you're killing, and it's also fun to count how many things you've killed in a certain amount of time. All of a sudden you may learn that you're killing multiple millions of enemies per league, and that's kind of just a fun, cool little statistic at the end of the day. So it seems like a pretty simple system in the end. Hopefully it's rewarding enough and doesn't just drop an armor scrap or some shit like that and make you feel bad about everything you've done. But yeah, if there's some good rewards, then this should be kind of fun, and definitely a little bit of extra bonus loot at the end too. You then have some potentially game-changing shit in the form of Legion jewels. From each of the 5 legions, it's possible to earn a specific unique jewel that can be socketed into your passive skill tree. Each of the 5 jewels modifies nearby passive skills in different ways, providing completely new character customization options if you are skilled enough to acquire one. So obviously they're going to be kind of hard to get. Currently you have this one, Glorious Vanity, bathed in the blood of 5,000 sacrificed virgins, whatever. Passives in radius are conquered by the Val, and it says historic. So historic, I assume, maybe means you can have 1 historic, limited to 1 historic. So basically just means that you shouldn't be able to mix and match all of these things. This one just changes everything here into red stuff, which kind of looks like a whole bunch of life passives and life side of things. And Ziggy D does go a little bit over that, and it certainly looks like it could be a game changer for the way we build these trees, and especially a large life quality of life buff. So you can turn that shit into a bunch of extra life all of a sudden, and some extra leech, and it seems like plenty of your other things are going to be changed as well. Maybe you're just going to be able to get a lot more access to life, and the passive trees that we used to make with 160% life and trying to get just about everything everywhere will be a lot more localized and a lot more lifey, so you could hit like 240% life a lot easier, similar to how Energy Shield currently works, and then still have plenty of stuff left to do and grab the good things locally rather than have to travel and justify the travel and justify it by getting the life as well as a couple of the good damage nodes, but then you've wasted a lot of stuff traveling. Currently how Energy Shield functions anyway. So we really don't have much info to go by besides this little clip here showing us that, yep, it changes a bunch of things in the entire circle for the life side of things just for this Val gem. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff they mentioned about Corrupted and what else that could mean, and there's also 4 other jewels still. So we don't really know what they're going to do either. Maybe they'll change things to more, I don't know, speed, dexterity, more attack-based, more spell-based, more energy shield. Who knows? But if, this makes building life so much easier and it's somewhat accessible, life builds are absolutely back on the menu and probably going to be flavor of the month, because life is just so much easier to build into than Energy Shield to begin with, and feels a lot more comfortable. So this could be a big one, could be a game changer, absolutely. You then have the entire melee combat revamp. There's a lot that goes into it. Shit, I'll just read this and address it mildly, but it's gonna be just a big patch note book reading when that all comes out. But you can now cancel attack animations after they deal their damage. So that means that you'll actually be able to move a lot sooner and not feel as locked down, which is a big problem against a lot of these end game fights right now, especially with slower attacks and slower weapons. And the only way you really get around that right now is building shitloads of attack speed, and even then it can get you in trouble. Against an Uber Elder, for example, you really want precision movement, and cancellation of that stuff, that's going to make it a lot nicer. Movement skills are all now instant, and new low-level movement skills have been added for many classes. So movement skills being instant, once again, it's just going to make your dodging so much smoother and better, and your survival should go up because of that. And then low-level movement skills just mean you're going to have a much nicer starting experience with melee attacks and all that sort of stuff, because it is a pretty clunky start with Path of Exile right from the get-go. All melee attacks can now hit multiple adjacent enemies, so that means that your single target when you first pick it up, as like Viper Strike or Double Strike, currently only hits like 1 enemy, and it feels pretty shit when you're swarmed by 2 or 3 zombies right from the start. well, now you will be hitting everything in front of you, and it's kind of a little melee splash sort of thing. So that makes those so much easier to start out with and much nicer. Animation system has been overhauled, monster targeting rules improved, and accuracy no longer capped at 95. It'll go up to 100% instead, and apparently work better against white monsters in general, so that, you know, for the most part, your early game clearing will actually feel good, and you won't just feel like you're lagging, because that's currently what hit rate feels like early on. There are more changes to melee combat than are possible to list here. These changes plus a rebalance of most melee skills create an entirely new combat experience. For everything I've seen, it looks extremely smooth and probably a game changer. New build archetypes. The new Blood and Sand Gladiator archetype can switch between Blood stance and Sand stance, dynamically modifying the function of new and existing skills. The new Rage Berserker archetype revamps the Rage system and introduces new skills that generate or consume Rage. These powerful archetypes and their new skills offer additional options for many other Path of Exile builds. And Ziggy goes over this a bit in his video, so like I said, recommend checking that one out. But Blood and Sand skills, 2 new reservation effects let you switch between Blood and Sand stances. New and rework skills of different behavior in each stance, like Blade Storm, which causes bleeding blood storms in Blood stance and blinding sandstorms in Sand stance. That sounds pretty damn cool. New Blade Storm skill, and then different stances specializing in what they can do. You then have defensive and mobility skills. Dash and Steel Skin let you instantly respond to dangerous enemy attacks by avoiding them or protecting you from damage. That looks very nice. I've always been a very sort of big fan of the blink arrow style of dodging in this game, or in these types of games. Just a quick dash, a quick roll, a quick blink, whatever it is, to get you out of danger and then proceed your fight or run around a bit more, as opposed to just spamming a skill and using it to travel everywhere like a Whirling Blades or a Leap Slam that's just non-stop spammable but doesn't feel that good. Just one that feels really good and gets you out of your precarious situation instantly is how I think these games should be played. You then have Rage skills. 2 new attack skills will let you easily generate Rage. A stacking buff that gives powerful attack bonuses and no longer has a downside, so it won't degen you anymore, which is pretty goddamn good news for the Berserker. That probably means that Berserker is going to be oh so flavor of the month this next patch. The Berserk skill will let you consume this Rage for massive bonuses. A new aura and support gems will further enhance this melee playstyle. So I'm pretty sure Gladiator and Berserker should be fairly flavor of the month in this coming patch, and a lot of feel-good stuff there. Early game monster rebalance. With all the new melee combat improvements, players can now dodge out of the way of attacks easily. We've taken advantage of this by rebalancing monster attacks that used to have poor signaling to now have a wind-up, so they'll wind up their attacks a bit slower, means you can dodge them better as well. This rebalance extends to improving monster AI and boss fights throughout the early campaign. So currently, if you're like within the melee range of a boss or an enemy and it attacks, if you move out of the way of that, but you're still within range, you're getting hit. Now it's going to be more that they go for their swing. If you move, you know, a few feet to the left or right or something, you can actually dodge the attack and then keep attacking them yourself. And that's going to be pretty goddamn nice. You then have powerful new items, which is, there's a few kind of cool ones, let's just say. Got an Elder Bone Helmet, 10 stack of Exalted Orbs, some gloves that do some minion shit, which look like they could actually change some of the zombie playstyle up a bit. Maybe you can do some detonate dead zombies, some extra single target, some shit like that. More of Conquest, which is a helm that just a little bit tanky. I don't know, it doesn't look that exciting. Vol's Protector, which now has Inner Conviction. Apparently that's got something to do with power charges, it says your boy Ziggy D. This hammer just has some life and mana. I don't know, not super exciting. And then Wrathpith, looks like you might be able to build around it because it's gained a bunch of crit and spell damage per 100 life, but comes at a cost of, well, eating up some of your life whenever you use a skill. That's that for now, and then there's some supporter packs. Check out the VOD for my stream this day if you want to see these supporter packs in action. I did go out of my way to test them on a few different characters, and I'll link that in the YouTube sort of description below. I did test a bunch of them, and overall I think initially I liked this one upon first look more, but after buying and trying them out, I do think the Blood Knight supporter pack is just cooler overall in-game. The wings are very cool. The armor set itself is actually pretty versatile between your female and your male characters, and it looks overall, I think, very Angel of Deathy. So I kind of like that one more, but this one, definitely not a bad one as well. But the biggest thing I want to say is, yeah, there's going to be quite a big melee shakeup, and there's a lot to talk about there, probably in the future. Currently, there's a lot of stuff that you do with the entire melee scene to fix some of these problems. Things like Ancestral Call, Multi-Strike, lots of attack speed, certain skills only used area, lots of area effect and weapon range, all of that sort of shit. There's a lot of stuff you can do to try and fix the clunkiness of the melee, and a lot of the time you can fix it. Problem is, you have to do a lot of that stuff, and it usually takes until a much later end game for your melee or your character to feel good, and that's pretty bad. So a lot of these changes sound like they are actually going to be fixing that, addressing that, and make things a lot smoother for the entire melee scene. And if you can start playing character right from level 1 and feel pretty good with it, and it just gets better over time, that's going to be so much better than having to wait for your melee character to get all the right gear, passives, and sort of ascendancies to actually be somewhat playable, especially in the end game. So I think this is a pretty big one, should be exciting. I think Legion looks good, and that's a big rework. That's like a mega expansion worth of melee rework. And yet there's still so much more to come in the form of another league and then the big mega expansion near the end of the year. So what can you say? You know, sit here, play your game. I've still been pretty happy with it. Synthesis wasn't the greatest league ever, but the game itself I thought was in a good state. A lot of stuff to play around with, and I had a lot of fun. And then bam! Given another bunch to play around with for the next 3 months. I think I will be very busy and very happy to be doing all of this. So thank you guys for tuning into the streams and the videos and letting me do what I do. That's just the wrap up for the initial thoughts. I'm sure we'll have a lot more in the future as well. But thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.